Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our reaction review to Doctor Who, Flux, War of the Sontarans.
The name is getting longer.
It's getting longer and longer. This is episode 2, series 13. Okay. So I have thoughts, but I want to know your initial thoughts of this episode.
We kind of talked about it a little bit. It feels a little more David Tennant, Matt Smith, kind of just the like the David Tennant when the master comes, right, and he keeps hearing the heartbeat, the drums,
and
it just feels kind of like that for whatever reason. So
it has a lot more scale to it.
Yeah.
Just shot wise, it has a lot more scale.
Yeah, and that's probably what's making it feel like that.
Yeah. I think my initial reaction for this episode is I really like it. I like what they're doing. I like the general conversation of what they're having about what the flux is and how it's affecting time and stuff.
Yeah, and we're circling back around to, what was his name?
Swarm and his sister.
His sister, yeah. They're back in it, but we're going back in time to the Crimean War of all wars. That's the war we're gonna go to.
This it's a big deal for the British, right?
The UK?
So
okay.
I mean, it's
sure.
For us, it's not necessarily here in the States. It's not, but the idea of what they're trying to do with one continuous story that they've talked about in the past that they didn't want to do when they started with Chibnall and Jodie started with that
right.
They didn't want to do a continuous story, and now this season, this series, we're actually getting one continuous story. Except this episode felt the adventure of the week with the sprinkling of Swarm and what they're trying to do at the temple. And how the temple is on the planet Time, and how they're trying to do either stop time, change time.
Yeah, because they're killing the time witches.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're supposed to be, but because two of them were missing, and then they killed another one or dusted another one, and then they put Yaz and Vendor in two of their places. They're still missing one, so I'm a little confused as to what that was all about. And
it also kind of feels like they're trying to set up the Doctor to be the one who holds time and place, that they're going to hold her in place as captive to keep time going. If she doesn't do it, then they're going to end all of time. I'm speculating responsibly, I think, honestly, but it feels like that's kind of, they obviously have Swarm and the Doctor have some history from what we got last week,
right?
And then they're talking about time specifically and the keepers of time, not necessarily the Time Lords,
right?
But the keepers of time itself. And so if they want to create time or control time as they want it, they need somebody who can control all of time. And, well, who else than a Time Lord?
Right. Meanwhile, the TARDIS is infected.
Yeah.
With time.
With ooze from New York. Ghostbusters, the slime from the but the TARDIS kind of like the episode when they were in the Crimean War and the TARDIS, they're on the battlefield and the Doctor kind of wakes up there.
Yeah.
And the TARDIS has no door, so the TARDIS wouldn't let her in. Well, actually, I thought the episode starting cold, which they don't do a ton of, and it being in black and white, and the Tim Burton horror house floating in the sky was a little interesting.
Yeah, so that's gotta come back around.
Yeah.
You kind of wonder if that has anything to do with Dan's little house in his pocket.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Yeah, like there's some weird stuff going on with the houses, and then his parents showing up was very Donna Noble.
Yes,
her
I was thinking
mom
the same
and grandpa.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Again, with the concept of the Earth-based kind of companions and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then the companions who were actually on the TARDIS with the FAM,
the fam,
but
which isn't there anymore.
which isn't really there anymore, and again, so this is the second episode we've had this for this season. We're only getting 6 total until we get to the New Year's special, the 60th, and then Jodie's leaving of the show.
Right.
But the idea of they left the boys behind to have Mandy as Yaz there, and this is 2 episodes where the Doctor and Mandy really haven't done anything together.
I know. Yeah, it's weird.
And Yaz, sorry, Mandy is the Mandip. Mandip. I not really good with Indian names, so I don't know how to say her name, but I call her Mandy because that's how I saw it.
Yeah.
In on behind the scene photos is how I saw it. So, but the idea of the 2 of them like not being together is kind of like the whole point was to have the 2 of them together, and now at the end of the episode we have Dan and the Doctor together on the TARDIS.
Right.
That's oozing. You should have that looked at. If oozing persists after 40 years, you should probably have that looked at.
I think it's been longer than 40 years, but like 60 years. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird that they're split up. I was almost wondering, because Fender and Yaz are, I don't know, like the previews for the next episode or whatever kind of maybe spoiled it, because you're like, are they gonna die? Because it ends with the swarm getting ready to snap his fingers, and then you see her in potentially later episodes. So I'm assuming she doesn't die, but I was kind of thinking there for a minute. I was like, oh, maybe she dies or disappears or becomes a time witch or whatever.
Right.
And then
he threatened to have all of time go through her. So I'm wondering if she becomes
they did.
like...
Bill, goes out into space with her girlfriend or water girlfriend, whatever.
Whatever she was.
There's all these ideas because we know it's coming to the end, right? As to how they're gonna wrap that all up. Does Yaz follow the new Doctor like
what Clara
did, or and Rose, or does she?
Is she done after this season?
Yeah, go away somehow
leaving.
First.
They said Jodie's leaving the show, but I haven't heard of anything if Mandy is leaving the show at all.
Yeah,
that would be it's the story the storytelling they're doing. I actually really like, because they're doing we have speculation of what's actually going on with the overall story, and and we really haven't had that. Even with last season with the Master wasn't there enough to have a continuous kind of story.
Yeah, we didn't expect the cursed child at all.
The timeless child.
Timeless child
is Harry.
That's true.
It's still British. It's close. If Harry shows up, though, I'm totally down. Actually, Daniel Radcliffe as the Doctor would be really interesting. I want Rupert Grint because I want a ginge. But the Sontarans, and they're doing a temporal, not a tempora, which I love that joke.
Dan's like, they're really into Chinese food.
No. We'll talk about the comedy here in a minute, but the conversation of them having they snuck in before they put the dogs put the shield up. I can't remember the name of their characters right now. Put the shield up. The Sontarans snuck in, and they set up this temporal pincer movement to steal a line from Tennant. And they're using the Crimean War as a kind of testing point.
To see if they can go throughout all history.
And they want to make Earth the Sontaran base for the quadrant, the region, or whatever of space. And I don't know if necessarily they've talked about that particular thing with the Sontarans in the past. The Sontarans have been a foil for the Doctor, but I don't know if they actually talked about why they wanted Earth so badly. The Cybermen want Earth because they're men, they're people, they're humans that are being
to be assimilated,
to be upgraded,
upgraded,
and the Daleks just want to eliminate Earth because the Doctor's, the protector of it and stuff, and
they exterminate,
and they exterminate everything that's not them, and
right.
So just it's kind of an interesting kind of concept to have them say. Maybe they have in the past in Classic Who, and we're not super versed in the Classic Who, but it's like just the idea of that being brought up. Specifically because they talked about the Flux and how the Flux kind of sent them, forced them through space and time. And that's how they got to the Crimean War. And then Yaz and Dan kind of got back to the futured.
Yeah.
Eliminated from the time period. So they got pushed to whatever, and Yaz went to the temple on time.
Right.
But it's just kind of an interesting kind of thought process and stuff.
Yeah.
Funnier episode than we thought. I think that we expected it to be. Dan is definitely
the comic relief.
John Bishop is a stand-up comic and
right,
stuff,
so
but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But the idea of using a pan to
turned off
the Sontarans.
Kill them. I mean, they don't really go into whether it just knocks them out or it kills them, but and him running towards the Sontaran ships.
phone in one hand.
And the pan in the other.
And his walk.
That
he got from his dad. His dad passing Excalibur on to him was just really good. And the nurse.
Yeah.
I cannot remember her name off the top of my head. It's not going to come. But she kind of had some witty comebacks to everything that was going to go on. And I really, for the seriousness of what's going on with Swarm and what was going on with the Crimean War and everything, all that kind of, there was still some, I'm actually laughing out loud kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. There was some good funny lines.
We did get Dan Starkey as Svild, Svild.
Svild,
Svild. So he was Strax. So it was nice to have him come back. I'm hoping that they actually do that more. Bring some of the actors back from the modern Who to play these characters.
Yeah, I mean, I like Strax.
I like Strax a lot too.
But I did notice, I was like, it's kind of hard to tell because they're in this potato makeup. Yeah. But I felt like, his eyes, I was like, is he going to bust out as Strax? Maybe he's actually Strax and he's playing somebody else, and then he's going to be like,
his kid. Well, they're all clones, so it wouldn't be his kid.
Yeah, but so it's the same guy.
Yeah, it was nice to have him back, and especially if they're going to do this kind of, they did it with Tenet. They had his kind of goodbye tour.
Yeah, I
kind of do that.
Yeah, it's definitely what this is.
And Capaldi necessarily didn't get that goodbye tour. So it would be nice if Jodie does. Matt kind of got it, and Eccleston was,
here 1 minute and gone the next.
Out the door. Actually, if you watch that scene again, he walks through the door and then regenerates. It's just sort of, but it would be nice to have that kind of have character actors who've been on the show have them come back.
Yeah. It's a little weird because they were so against in the beginning against bringing the old characters back, and now she's gonna get a goodbye tour with them, but whatever. I'll watch it.
Because we're digging it, and it definitely feels like they are, because of the flux, it's messing with time.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna mess with time, you're gonna have, that's how you're gonna get the Sontarans, you're gonna get the Cybermen, you're gonna get the Weeping Angels, you get the Silence and stuff like that.
A good man goes to war, right? It's we're gonna bring all these people that you know and remember, whatever, we're gonna bring them all back to save the Doctor, or for, like you said, like a goodbye tour. So
yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with this episode?
No.
I think overall we liked it, but I'm interested what's going to go forward.
Yeah. Where the story's going.
Which is why we love this stuff. Yeah. So here we go. Let us know what you thought of this episode and our reaction and review to it in the comments down below. Please be nice. There's a requirement around here. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Links are in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.